Hello, I'm Larry Meisel. This Thanksgiving weekend 2022 in the United States, 22 people were killed and 44 were injured from mass gun shootings. Welcome to The Examined Life, a channel for people interested in the civil discussion of diverse opinions about ideas and issues, from the tremendously important to the trivial but interesting. 90% of any money earned will be donated to Doctors Without Borders, Feeding America, Amnesty International, and Oxfam, which is a World Hunger and Poverty Relief NGO. So like, comment, subscribe, and share, because just by watching, you'll be helping others. The channel motto is Wonder, Explore, Create, and Grow. In this video, I'm going to describe my suggestions for reducing the tragedy and suffering caused by gun violence. Some background information is that 32% of adults in the United States own a gun. There are 200 million adults in the United States, and there are 400 million guns. So 32% equals 64 million people own 400 million guns. That sounds like an awful lot. And in 2020, 45,222 people were killed by gun-related violence. In 2020, the CDC estimates that the top 5 leading causes of death were heart disease at almost 697,000, cancer at a little bit more than 602,000, COVID deaths at almost 351,000, injuries almost 201,000, and stroke 160, a little bit more than 160,000. So while I was gathering this information, it occurred to me that 45,222 is a relatively small number compared to the deaths from illness and injuries. So tell me what you think in the comments section about why this is something that we get so upset about and give so much energy and attention to. I think that perhaps it is because gun-related deaths are sudden and tragic, whereas death from illness and injury is a relatively inherent part of living. So when gun-related deaths happen, it's much more disturbing because it is so sudden, and I think because it should be avoidable. So my proposal is that we should treat guns like cars. You should have a license, a registration, and insurance in order to own and use one. I understand that we have a constitutional right to bear arms. Second Amendment says that the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And I say that the Constitution also gives us a right to freedom of association. So I can go where I want to go to see who I want to see. But if I use a car to get there, I have to have a license, registration, and insurance. Starting with a license, the right to freedom of association is granted to adults, and to be an adult, you have to be 18. To have a license to drive a car, there's an age limit. In many states, it's 16. Some states, it's 17 or 18. And for first-time drivers, there's often safety education before getting a license, particularly if you are in high school where they offer driver's education. And before getting a license, everyone has to take a written exam to prove that they can conceptually understand the rules of the road and the principles of safe driving. Then before finally getting the license, there's a practical test where you have to demonstrate that you can properly operate the car with, as my taxi cab driving father would say, without having to crash into something or somebody. in order to bring it to a complete stop. And with a license, they are subject to periodic renewal. So if you improperly or illegally drive your car, there's a point system of penalties and fines. And if you accumulate enough points and fines within a certain period of time, the license can be revoked. And if you cause injury or harm or damage driving under the influence, the penalties can include even imprisonment. Having a registration and insurance in the state where I grew up, my home state of New Jersey, the registration included yearly inspection to make sure that the car was in safe operating condition. All the safety equipment on the car had to be in good working order. Every car has a vehicle identification number, and the vehicle identification number is associated with the license plate, so that if the car is improperly used or used in the commission of a crime, the owner of the car can be found. Insurance allows for the compensation to victims if I am at fault in creating damage or injury. Insurance pays the victims of my malpractice, so that innocent victims of our misbehavior can receive compensation. I think the same should be true for victims of gun violence. And if I'm at fault in car crashes often enough, or I accumulate too many points, the insurance company will raise my rates or even cancel my insurance. So again, tell me what you think in the comments about these ideas. And one additional point is that in the preamble to the Constitution, the last phrase says, to provide for the general welfare. So our constitutional rights are not absolute. The right to free speech and expression, for instance, is limited by laws against fraud, libel, and incitement to violence and riot. So I recognize that these things I'm proposing will not absolutely prevent all injuries or deaths from gun violence or improper use of guns, but they can reduce the harm. They can reduce the suffering. They can reduce the tragedy. For instance, raising the drinking age to 21 has not prevented all traffic deaths or even alcohol-related traffic deaths, but raising the drinking age to 21 has decreased both alcohol consumption and deaths from drunk driving. Nobody wants to see death and injury from the use of guns. Tell me what your ideas are, because on this channel, I want to create a place for the civil discussion of diverse opinions about ideas and issues, from the tremendously important to the trivial but interesting. Remember, just by watching, you are helping others, because 90% of the proceeds will go to Doctors Without Borders, Feeding America, Amnesty International, and Oxfam. So please like, share, comment, and subscribe, because just by watching, you're helping me to help others. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.